Ladies and gentlemen, there are moments in your life when heaven interrupts your assumptions. The people you've labeled expired, that God is still writing chapters with. And right now, I come with a burden, not a suggestion, a burden from the Spirit. This person still matters. God is not done with them, and you are not permitted to disconnect yet. You were ready to walk away. You've rehearsed your goodbye in silence. You said, enough is enough. But what if the silence is sacred? What if the pain is pruning? What if heaven is watching to see if you can still love like Jesus when it's uncomfortable, unclear, or unreciprocated? Tonight I came to speak not just to your mind, but to your discernment. There is someone you are about to walk away from, and heaven is shouting, wait, before you let them go. Heaven wants to make a case. Stay with me. Don't sprawl. Don't switch. This is not just a message. This is a rescue mission. What you're about to hear may heal what therapy couldn't, restore what time hasn't, and save what pride tried to bury. There is a language in the Spirit that only those trained in the sacred place can understand. It is the language of delay. And if you misinterpret it, you will walk away from what God is still nurturing. One of the most dangerous things in a believer's journey is to confuse divine delay with divine rejection. Many have aborted destiny partnerships, callings, and relationships because they mistook God's silence for his disapproval. When God delays, it is not because he is absent, it is because he is working in the invisible. Just because the plant has not yet broken through the soil does not mean the seed is dead. The earth must do its quiet work before the sprouting becomes visible. And likewise, there are people and situations in your life that God has hidden, not removed. What looks like inactivity in the natural may be intense warfare or preparation in the realm of the Spirit. Delay in the kingdom is often a test of sight. Will you still believe when there is no evidence? Will you still stay when affection feels dry? Will you still invest when there is no affirmation? Divine delay is heaven's classroom. God will intentionally stretch time to train your perception, to sift your motives, to align your heart, and to prepare the other party. You see, God is not just dealing with you, he's dealing with them too. He is the God of both ends. And sometimes he must slow down one to preserve both. If you move in your own wisdom and sever a relationship prematurely, you may win an argument but lose a covenant. You may protect your pride but sabotage your prophecy. The mistake we often make is assuming that every delay is demonic. But hear this. Not every closed door is spiritual warfare. Some are divine protection. Some are spiritual traffic lights saying, wait, something deeper is happening that your current maturity cannot see. And if you walk away from a delay, you may miss an alignment that generations ahead of you were supposed to benefit from. There are people you are connected to who are not perfect, but they are prophetic. They carry something that doesn't look useful now, but it is tied to your future manifestation. You may be in a season where the wine has run out and all they have left is water, but that water under divine instruction will turn into wine. If you let them go during the water stage, you will never taste the wine. God will often allow misunderstanding, silence, or discomfort to test your revelation of honor. If your connection to someone is based on pleasure, the moment pain enters, your loyalty will exit. But when you understand that divine connections are not built on convenience but on covenant, you will endure delay without disconnecting. Moses stayed 40 years in Midian, not because he was forgotten, but because he was being formed. David stayed in caves running from Saul, not because he was disqualified, but because he was being refined. Joseph sat in a prison, not because he was guilty, but because timing in the spirit had not yet kissed manifestation. If any of them had judged God based on delay, they would have missed their enthronement. Delay sharpens discernment. Delay purifies motive. Delay exposes the difference between what you want and what you are called to. God will test your love by hiding the beauty of a person and asking if you will still stay. He will let seasons of silence settle in a relationship to see if your covenant is built on noise or on understanding. And let me say this, sometimes delay is designed to humble both parties. Pride is a terrible thing. It will cause two people carrying the same vision to walk in opposite directions just because no one wanted to yield. But divine delay will break that pride, silence the ego, and create a posture where heaven can unite what offense tried to divide. In this season, God is saying, hold on, not because you are weak, but because you are wise. Wait, not because you are without options, but because you know destiny cannot be rushed. If you run ahead of God, you will always have to maintain in the flesh what was started in the flesh. But if you wait on God, what he gives will come with his backing, his peace, and his timing. Divine delay is not divine denial. It is divine design. And when God designs, he does not waste time. He redeems it. The person you are about to give up on may be the very one God is about to anoint. Don't walk away just before the oil flows. Every time destiny is at the door, God withdraws the noise so you can hear the whisper. And in that silence, your discernment becomes your most powerful weapon. In the journey of purpose, you will reach moments where what you see, what you feel, and what God is saying seem to contradict. It is in those seasons that discernment is not a gift, it becomes a lifeline. Discernment is more than knowing right from wrong. It is knowing God's mind in a moment where everything feels unclear. And right now, someone listening to me is in a season where heaven is testing your discernment. You are looking at someone, a person that was once a blessing, a person you once called divine, and now offense, silence, misunderstanding, or time has clouded your vision. What used to look like God now looks like a burden. What once felt like a gift now feels like a mistake. But hear this. Discernment is the ability to see beyond the veil. It is the grace to perceive purpose in pain, to recognize value in imperfection, and to hold on to covenant when convenience is no longer present. There are people you are connected to. You may not be acting right in this season. They may be silent, confused, or even hurting, but their current state is not the full picture. Your ability to see like God sees will determine whether you walk away or wait. Discernment is not emotional, it is spiritual. This is why the enemy doesn't always attack your heart first. He attacks your sight. If he can distort how you see someone, he can rob you of the destiny attached to them. Many have cut off divine relationships, not because the person changed, but because their perception was polluted. Offense is a fog. Pride is a fog. Assumption is a fog. And if you don't fight to see clearly, you will misinterpret what God is still building. You must understand this. Some of the most important people in your life will not always appear impressive. In fact, their current behavior may offend your sensibilities. They may not affirm you like they used to. They may not be responding the way you expect. And in those moments, God asks, can you still discern me in them? Saul was hunting David, but David still called him the Lord's anointed. Why? Because David's discernment was greater than his offense. Joseph was betrayed by his brothers, but when the time of power came, he said, you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. Why? Because Joseph saw God in the betrayal. Jesus looked at Peter even after denial and still said, feed my sheep. Why? Because heaven doesn't discard people based on their lowest moment. Discernment is what helps you love like Jesus. Anyone can love what is easy. Anyone can stay when it's smooth. But it takes discernment to say, I know you are not acting like yourself. I know you are not in your best season. but I also know who you are in the spirit. When everyone else is judging based on behavior, discernment sees identity. God will test your discernment by allowing seasons where the person he joined you to becomes unrecognizable. They may go silent, they may become defensive, they may be dealing with things they haven't voiced. But if you walk away based only on behavior, you fail the test, because destiny connections are not just built on performance. They are anchored in prophetic sight. And I must tell you this, when you are on the verge of breakthrough, the enemy will often dress sabotage in the clothing of justification. It's a whisper. You have every right to walk away. You've done your part. Let them go. But discernment interrupts that voice and says, wait, look again. Don't judge them by this moment. This is why intimacy with God is not negotiable, because the more time you spend in his presence, the more clearly you see like him. When you dwell in the secret place, he fine-tunes your perception. He whispers things about people that silence won't tell you. He reveals what your emotions cannot interpret. Right now, God is giving you an opportunity to look again, not with the eyes of frustration, but with the eyes of the spirit, because sometimes the person you are tempted to disconnect from is carrying the next phase of your transformation. And if you fail to discern correctly, you may delay your own rising. There are some people in your life who were not just sent, they were assigned. They are not there by convenience or coincidence. They are covenant carriers. And if you ever hope to walk in the fullness of what God ordained for your destiny, you must train your eyes. Not just your natural eyes, but your covenant eyes. Because covenant relationships are not sustained by feelings, appearances, or trend. They are sustained by vision, spiritual vision. The danger in this generation is that we treat covenants like contracts. Contracts are based on performance. Covenants are based on purpose. A contract says, as long as you make me feel good, I'll stay. A covenant says, even if you wound me in your weakness, I'll still see who you are in God. And the reason why many destiny altering relationships are breaking is because we are judging them with carnal. Covenant relationships are not always comfortable, but they are always critical. Think of Elijah and Elisha. There were moments Elijah was silent, seemingly distant, but Elisha refused to disconnect. He said, as the Lord lives and as your soul lives, I will not leave you. Why? Because he was seeing with covenant eyes. He understood that discomfort doesn't mean disconnection. He understood that offense is not authorization to abort destiny. Some people walk away from their spiritual fathers, their mentors, their friends, even their spouses, not because the relationship is dead, but because they stop seeing the original intention of God. When God brings someone into your life by covenant, he hides treasures inside them. And those treasures are not always visible at first. In fact, many times, God will allow flaws to surround their grace just to test whether you can still recognize the oil. He will let the anointed look ordinary. He will let the person you're meant to walk with disappoint you, not because they are fake, but because God wants to reveal whether you are faithful. Covenant eyes are not blinded by weakness. They are trained to see beyond. You must learn this. The enemy will never attack a relationship with no spiritual value. He is not interested in your casual connections. He goes after the ones that carry your future. That's why warfare surrounds covenant. That's why misunderstanding arises where purpose is hidden. That's why the people who matter most to your assignment are often the ones the enemy targets first. Because if he can sever the bridge, he can delay your arrival. Covenant eyes must be able to look at someone in their broken state and say, you are still chosen. Covenant eyes can see betrayal and still believe in redemption. Covenant eyes can withstand seasons of silence, confusion, and emotional exhaustion and still refuse to walk away. Because covenant is not about how you feel. These incidents, what God said. Jesus knew Judas would betray him, but he still washed his feet. Why? Because covenant eyes never respond with vengeance. They respond with vision. Jesus saw what Judas was, but he also knew what had to happen. Sometimes even betrayal is a part of the plan. Sometimes distance is a divine. Sometimes friction is the training ground for forgiveness. And you will not survive those seasons if you don't see with covenant. God will put certain people in your life who carry access codes to realms you cannot enter alone. It may be a mentor, a friend, a spouse, a sibling, or even someone under your authority. And he will demand that you honor them, not for what they are doing now, but for what he placed inside them before time began. That honor cannot be sustained by the flesh. It can only survive through revelation. Covenant relationships are God's method of preserving and transporting destiny. You are not called to everyone, and everyone is not called to you. But when God joins people together for a divine purpose, that union becomes sacred. The moment you begin to dishonor, criticize, or withdraw based on temporary discomfort, you risk severing what God never told you to let go of. So you must pray, Lord, give me covenant eyes. The kind of eyes that are not seduced by offense. The kind of eyes that can see the blueprint of heaven even when the building is still under construction. Because if you walk by sight alone, you will call divine what is temporary and call disposable what is divine. One of the greatest mistakes you can make in life is confusing someone's current condition with their eternal assignment. People change, yes. Their emotions change, their level of understanding changes, their expressions of love may even grow cold, but purpose does not change. When God ordains a relationship or a divine connection, he speaks from eternity into time. And what he speaks is not based on their perfection, but on his intention. Many of you are struggling right now, not because you are weak, but because you are discerning inconsistencies in someone you once believed in. Perhaps they were your encourager, your covering, your helper, or your closest ally in destiny. And now you're watching them shift. Their words have changed. Their posture has shifted. They are no longer who they used to be. And you're asking yourself, did I miss God? But the question you should be asking is not, have they changed? The real question is, has God changed his mind about why he connected us? The answer, if you are honest before the Lord, is often no. Because the foundation of a covenant is not consistency of behavior. It is constancy of purpose. God joined you for something bigger than feelings, something deeper than seasonal compatibility. In the realm of the spirit, purpose is like a thread that weaves through the story of your life. And the people God assigns to you are tied to specific chapters in that story. They may go through crises. They may make mistakes. They may even hurt you. But their role in your narrative is not erased by their humanity. That's why you must see them not only through your pain, but through your purpose. Think of Peter. One moment he's walking on water, and the next he is sinking in fear. One moment he is declaring Jesus as the Christ, and the next Jesus is calling him Satan for resisting the cross. Later he denies Jesus altogether. Yet it is this same Peter who preaches in Acts 2 and brings 3,000 souls into the kingdom. What if Jesus had walked away from Peter because of a season of denial? He said, you know how we started the purpose? It says the pure family. He had canceled the purpose because the person stumbled. You see, destiny demands endurance. You must be able to carry the weight of someone's process without throwing away the prophecy. When God shows you someone's future, he rarely shows you their failures. He trusts that your love and maturity will carry you through their rough seasons without letting go. And yes, people will change. They will grow. They will struggle. They will shift. But if God said they are part of your purpose, then you must contend for that word. That doesn't mean you tolerate abuse or foolishness. It means you don't let temporary behavior cancel eternal alignment. There is a balance between wisdom and loyalty, and you need the Spirit of God to help you discern the difference. Some of you are in a valley right now where God is testing your revelation. He is allowing you to walk with people who no longer feed your flesh, to see if you were really in it for destiny or for convenience. Because if your connection was only to what they did for you, then the moment they stopped, your commitment dies. But if your connection was based on purpose, you will still pray, still intercede, still protect, and still cover them even when their actions seem unrecognizable. Remember, God never builds destiny on what is temporary. He builds on what is eternal. Emotions are temporary. Offense is temporary. Confusion is temporary. But purpose is eternal. If you let the temporary rule you, you will walk away from bridges God built to carry you into your next dimension. That's why it is dangerous to speak prematurely about someone who is in transition. You do not know what God is doing in them behind the curtain. Today they are inconsistent, but tomorrow they may be your deliverer. Today they are quiet, but tomorrow they may be carrying the instruction that shifts your entire life. Never let frustration cause you to dishonor someone. God is still processing. Purpose is like a root. Even when the tree looks dry, the root is walking underground. You may not see fruit right now, but if the purpose is alive, the season will turn. Your responsibility is to remain faithful to what God said, not to what your emotions are screaming. Because people change. But when God assigns someone to your life by purpose, their role remains until the script of heaven is complete. One of the most overlooked patterns in spiritual warfare is this: Satan doesn't just attack individuals, he attacks divine alignments. He targets the junction points, the people, partnerships, and relationships that carry prophetic weight. The moment God joins something together, it becomes a threat to darkness. And so Satan's strategy is simple: break what God built, divide what God joins, distort what God has designed. If you look closely throughout scripture, you will see this warfare play out repeatedly. From the Garden of Eden, Satan's first target was not just Eve, it was the unity between Adam and Eve. Why? Because God had already spoken a dominion mandate over them. Let them have dominion, not him, not her, them. The power was in their oneness, and Satan knew that if he could divide them, he could diminish their authority. He succeeded, not just by tempting Eve, but by severing the trust between two people who were meant to walk in dominion together. You must understand, what God joins becomes a gate of power. When two people are aligned by divine instruction, whether in marriage, ministry, friendship, mentorship, or spiritual covering, that connection becomes a portal. The enemy sees it. He knows something eternal is about to be born. And so he launches a campaign of distraction, offense, miscommunication, and bitterness, all to abort the assignment. This is why some of the most intense spiritual attacks in your life have not come when you were alone, but when you were properly connected. Suddenly there's confusion. Suddenly there's distance. Suddenly things that never mattered before become exaggerated. Little irritations become major arguments. Silence becomes suspicion. Why? Because Satan knows that if he cannot stop what God is doing in you individually, he will attack what God is doing through your union. There are people God connected you to for the sake of destiny. You didn't meet by accident. The timing was too prophetic. The confirmations too clear. But now you are under pressure. Not just personally, but relationally. The one who once covered you now feels distant. The one who once encouraged you now feels silent. And you're tempted to interpret their change as God saying, let go. But hear me, not every shaking is a release. Some shakings are a test. Satan attacked Jesus at the height of his spiritual assignment, not just in the wilderness, but also through Judas and Peter. Judas betrayed him. Peter denied him. Both were part of his inner circle. Why? Because when Satan cannot stop what's on your life, he will steer those closest to you. The goal is not just pain, it's disconnection. Because every disconnection carries the risk of dislocation, and every dislocation causes delay. Some of you are wondering why you're fighting with someone who once felt like a lifeline. You're asking, what changed? But the better question is, what did God assign us to do that made the enemy so nervous? Because Satan only attacks what carries prophetic weight. If your connection had no kingdom consequence, hell wouldn't care. But because it threatens territory, because it births movements, because it carries breakthrough, the enemy has mapped it for destruction. That you must be vigilant. You cannot afford to be carnal in moments of conflict. You cannot let your emotions lead you when warfare intensifies. You need discernment. You need to look past the irritation, past the silence, past the confusion, and ask, what is the enemy trying to break apart here? There are relationships worth fighting for, not because they are perfect, not because they are always easy, but because God joined them. And if God joined it, Satan will attack it. Besides suspicion in your heart, he will magnify small offenses. He will use time, distance, and unmet expectations to whisper, this connection is over. But if you are wise, if you are spiritual, if you remember the original instruction, you will not walk away quickly. Spiritual maturity is not proven in how easily you connect with people. It's proven in how faithfully you preserve what God joins. You don't need discernment to start relationships. You need it to sustain them under fire. Because the attack is not just about who hurt who. It's about aborting something eternal. When God joins, hell responds. Not with flames and horns, but with whispers, weariness, and withdrawal. That's how Satan attacks what God joins, quietly, strategically, subtly, until what was divine begins to feel disposable. That's when you must stand in the spirit and say, I know what this is. I will not let go just because it's hard. I will not walk away just because it's uncomfortable. I recognize this battle and I choose to fight. There are certain people in your life who are not there for emotional comfort. They are divine responses. They are not attachments you picked up along the way. They are answers sent by God in response to your purpose, your prayer, your pain, or your prophetic journey. And if you misinterpret who they are, you will mishandle what they carry. You must discern this. Not every person in your life is some are carriers. They carry something you prayed for, even if they don't look like what you expected. They carry a grace, a wisdom, a covering, or a key that unlocks dimensions you could never enter alone. And if you treat an answer like an option, you will delay your own destiny. Many people are so used to brokenness that when God sends an answer, they view it through the lens of trauma. They become suspicious of the very person God sent to heal the cycle. You ask God for direction and he sent a voice. You ask God for stability and he sends a structure. You asked him for peace and he sent someone with divine alignment. You ask God for stability to your life. No pain. He doesn't always decorate them with titles. Sometimes they walk into your life quietly in the middle of a storm with nothing but truth, consistency, and presence. And if you are carnally minded, you will overlook them because they don't entertain you. You will discard them because they don't always agree with you. You will misjudge them because they don't need you. They were sent to serve you. It's what happened to the widow in 1 Kings 17. She was at the point of death, gathering sticks to cook a last meal. But heaven had already sent Elijah. It didn't look like a miracle. He didn't come with a sack of food. He came with an instruction. He came with a challenge. And had she viewed him as a burden or an intrusion, she would have missed a provision. But she discerned the answer, and her house was preserved through famine. Some people enter your life with a capacity far beyond your comprehension. And if you only see them through your need for comfort or company, you will overlook the mantle they carry. You must train your spirit to ask, who is this person to me in the economy of God? Because you don't get the full benefit of someone you haven't discerned properly. If you reduce a mentor to a friend, you miss impartation. If you reduce a divine connection to a convenient one, you miss access. Answers are not always agreeable. Sometimes the person God sends to elevate you will first agitate you. Because answers come to challenge dysfunction. They come to disrupt cycles. They come to confront the parts of you that have survived through pain but are no longer sustainable for destiny. And if you are emotionally immature, you will call correction judgment and accountability oppression. But hear this. God doesn't send people to impress you. He sends them to shift you. He sends them to drag you out of average, to pull you out of confusion, to shake you free from passivity. Some of you are praying for clarity while avoiding the person God already placed in your life with the answer. You're asking for change while rejecting the relationship that demands it. Not every answer comes to stay forever. Some are temporary, sent for a season. And that's why you must not cling to what was sent as a response. Once the assignment is complete, the grace leaves. And if you try to force permanence out of something that was seasonal, you will end up wounded. You must be mature enough to know when to honor a gift without idolizing it. Appreciate the answer, receive the impartation, obey the instruction, but do not convert it into an idol. There are people God has assigned to your journey who are walking revelations. Their presence is a message. Their wisdom is an instruction. Their silence is sometimes a rebuke. And you must be spiritually awake to realize that these are not just nice people. They are divine strategies. They are not here just to be liked. They are here to shift you. Some of you have walked away from your answer because you didn't like how it felt. You wanted someone to sympathize with your wilderness. God sent someone to speak to your promised land. You wanted someone to babysit your fears. He sent someone to activate your faith. You must make peace with this. Answers don't always appeal to your emotions, but they will always point to your elevation. If you continue to treat answers like attachments, you will recycle seasons you should have conquered. Because in the economy of God, when he wants to move you forward, he doesn't always change the situation. Sometimes he sends a person